The 1970s were a time when snacks meant something more than just food. They were currency. They were cultural markers. They were memories being created in real time. For Black kids growing up in neighborhoods across America, certain snacks weren't just treats. They were rites of passage, badges of coolness, and the threads that wove communities together. These weren't mass-marketed luxury items. Many were humble, affordable, and deeply connected to the resourcefulness, joy, and street wisdom that defined childhood in these vibrant communities.
Lik-M-Aid, now Sweet Tarts powder, a small packet of flavored, colored powder that came with a tiny plastic stick you'd lick, dip into the powder, and repeat until your tongue was stained rainbow colors and your mouth was puckered from sweetness. The ritual was everything. You'd save your quarter from doing chores, mowing lawns, helping at the corner store, or running errands for neighbors, and head straight to the corner bodega or five and dime store. The plastic stick would stick to your tongue, you dip carefully into the packet, and suddenly you had 5 minutes of pure sensory delight. Kids would compare tongue colors in the schoolyard like it was a competitive sport. Lik-M-Aid wasn't just candy, it was democratized indulgence. A kid with 50 cents could feel rich. In neighborhoods where money was tight, these small packets represented access to joy that didn't require a lot. The communal aspect, comparing colors, trading flavors, daring each other to eat the entire packet at once, created bonds. It was proof that the sweetest moments didn't need to cost much.
2. Now and Laters. A chewy, taffy-like candy that came in bright, neon-colored squares wrapped in paper. The flavor would linger in your mouth for what felt like hours, hence the name. The real game with Now and Laters was the trading economy. A kid might have cherry, but they wanted grape. Another kid had grape, but loved strawberry. These candies became negotiation tools, social currency. You could stretch one piece for entire lunch periods, which meant your allowance went further. The chew was substantial. It didn't dissolve quickly like cheap candy. Now and Laters taught entrepreneurship before kids knew what entrepreneurship was. They learned about supply and demand, negotiation, and delayed gratification. A single Now and Later could be spun into a full social interaction. The longer-lasting flavor also meant kids could afford to savor something, literally. In communities where consumption was often rushed or scarce, this candy represented luxury in slowness. Bazooka bubblegum. Pink bubblegum that came wrapped in comic strips. The gum was stiff at first, requiring serious jaw work to get it supple enough to blow bubbles. The comic strip inside was half the appeal. Kids would collect them, trade them, and some even tried to piece together full comics. The bubble blowing itself became competitive. Who could blow the biggest bubble before it popped? The challenge was real. Bazooka required technique, patience, and practice. Bazooka represented the idea that packaging mattered, that there was artistry in the mundane. The small comic strips were introductions to narrative and humor for kids who might not have had consistent access to reading material. The competitive bubble blowing created natural gathering moments on the stoop, in the schoolyard, on the corner. It was a low-stakes competition that let every kid feel like a winner sometimes. 4. Chico Stick, a crunchy, nutty, caramel-colored stick candy that was impossibly hard at first, then slowly softened as you worked it with your teeth. You'd grab one from the corner store and it would last surprisingly long. The crunch was satisfying and there was something almost meditative about the process of slowly breaking it down with your teeth. Kids would sometimes dare each other to crunch the whole thing at once, a test of jaw strength and pain tolerance.
Chick-O-Stick was unpretentious and no frills. It didn't come with comic strips or special packaging, but kids loved it anyway. This taught an important lesson. Value doesn't need flashy marketing. Sometimes the simple, reliable thing is the best thing. The durability of Chick-O-Stick meant it was practical. Your candy wouldn't fall apart in your pocket or dissolve into mush.
5. Pixie sticks. Thin paper straws filled with colored sugar powder, pure, unadulterated sugar in its most direct form. You'd rip open the top and pour the sugar directly into your mouth. Or you could close one end with your tongue and sip it like it was some kind of illegal substance. The rush was immediate. The energy spike was real. Kids would buy a handful for pennies. Pixie Sticks was the gateway candy. It showed kids the raw mechanics of sugar and energy in a way that felt adventurous and slightly dangerous. Buying Pixie Sticks felt like you were getting away with something. The affordability meant every kid could participate in this small rebellion. It was pure, democratic joy in its most honest form.
6. Hot stuffed pizza. A snack-sized personal pizza in a box that came in flavors like cheese, pepperoni, and sausage. Not quite as good as homemade, but infinitely better than nothing. Hot stuff was special because it represented a step up from the everyday. Maybe you got one for doing well on a report card or as a rare treat on a Friday. It came in its own box, which meant it felt sophisticated compared to bulk candy. You could eat it at your desk or save it for lunch period. Hot stuffed pizza, though mass-produced, tasted like someone cared. In families where time and money were both stretched thin, a hot stuffed pizza could feel like a home-cooked meal. It was affordable enough that it wasn't out of reach, but special enough that getting one felt like a victory. Kids learned that treats could be practical. This was actual food, not just empty calories.
7. Twinkies. A soft sponge cake with a cream filling, individually wrapped in plastic. The packaging was part of the appeal. It stayed fresh for what seemed like forever. Twinkies were lunchbox staples. You'd unwrap them, sometimes pull them apart to eat the cream first, or bite straight through. They traveled well, didn't spoil, and could be eaten anywhere without mess. Twinkies represented accessibility and abundance. A kid could have a Twinkie in their lunchbox and feel like they belong with every other kid in school. The individually wrapped format meant even in a crowded household, each kid could have their own. Twinkies didn't discriminate. They tasted the same whether you were rich or poor. That democratization of a small pleasure was its own form of equity.
8. Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Bright red crescent-shaped corn snacks coated in spicy red powder that stained your fingers and lips and lingered on your palate. Flamin' Hot Cheetos was social. You'd buy a bag and suddenly you had friends. Kids would challenge each other to eat them without water, trading snacks and sharing a mutual experience of heat. Your fingers would turn red, making it obvious to everyone what you'd been eating. Flamin' Hot Cheetos represented a kind of fearlessness. Black kids in the 70s were developing their own aesthetic, their own preferences, their own flavor profiles that differed from mainstream white snacking culture. This was identity formation in real time. The spice, the boldness, the willingness to have red-stained fingers, all of it was a quiet assertion of selfhood and community standards.
9. Pop-Tarts. A rectangular pastry with sweet filling sealed inside, ready to eat straight from the package or toasted. They came in dozens of flavors: strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, blueberry. Pop-Tarts were the ultimate convenience snack. You didn't need an adult's help. You could grab one and go. If you had a toaster, great. Warm and slightly melting filling. If not, you ate it cold. Either way, you had a complete snack that actually felt like a meal. Pop-Tarts represented independence and modernity. Kids could feed themselves. In single-parent or multi-generational households where meals had to be efficient, Pop-Tarts were a lifeline. They were also a small luxury. Not every family could afford them regularly, so getting them meant something. The variety of flavors let each kid express preference in a small, affordable way.
10. Doritos Original Toasted Corn. Triangular corn chips coated in seasoning powder. The original wasn't as intensely flavored as later versions, but they had their own distinctive taste. Doritos were handheld and didn't require utensils. A bag lasted longer than you think because of portion discipline or scarcity. You'd eat a few, then save some for later. The communal aspect came from sharing bags. Someone's mom might have bought a large bag from the corner store and you'd all dip in. Doritos were the snack that proved packaged food could be cool. They represented a kind of modern progress, factory-made snacks that tasted consistent and lasted. For kids in less affluent neighborhoods, Doritos were a way to participate in the broader consumer culture that was being advertised on TV. Having Doritos meant you were part of something larger.
We've only just scratched the surface of these forgotten treasures and neighborhood secrets, but the journey down memory lane isn't over yet. If you felt that powerful tug of nostalgia, trust me, you won't want to miss the deep cuts and the truly priceless gems waiting in part 2. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the video popping up on your screen right now, because the rest of the story and the memories you forgot you had are waiting for you there. Let's keep the soul of the past alive.